This time, the story's development no longer followed the previous pattern of one death per day. The 5th day passed without incident, and everyone peacefully welcomed the 6th day's sunrise, but their mutual suspicions had only grown stronger. Meanwhile, a full day had passed since the distress signal was sent, yet no rescue had appeared. Marcus questioned whether the transmitter had actually been working when they left it. Currently, only 2 people knew the transmitter's location besides the deceased Wei, and Marcus couldn't help but turn his suspicions toward the guy with glasses. Just then, the 2 men suddenly heard sounds of a struggle in the distance. It turned out that Glass's aggressive behavior had rubbed Jay the wrong way. Seeing the confrontation, Rita quickly raised her gun and threatened them to separate. Hearing the commotion, everyone else rushed over, but before anyone could figure out what was happening, Rita delivered some bad news. Someone had stolen all the bullets from her bag during the night, leaving her with only the few rounds already loaded in the chamber. Clearly, her presence had made the killer feel threatened, and Jay, having just revealed her background, naturally became a suspect. She quickly defended herself, explaining that while she had indeed been a gang member in the past, she'd left that life behind after meeting her blonde girlfriend and hadn't committed any crimes since. She didn't want her fiancé to know about her past and threatened that if anyone dared mention it in front of Blonde, she really would turn killer in retaliation. With that, the trail went cold once again. But Anna inadvertently discovered Rita acting suspiciously, searching for something in the woods. She had no choice but to reveal that she'd followed Marcus to this spot and was certain he'd hidden something nearby. Anna listened thoughtfully, and soon night fell again. The torrential rain forced everyone to take shelter inside the plane, and Glasses, soaked to the bone, finally reached her breaking point. The thought that someone in their group wanted to kill her sent chills down her spine. But then Anna suddenly noticed something odd. The plane crash had created numerous cracks in the fuselage, yet the rainwater dripping from the ceiling was unusually slow. She theorized that there must be an additional layer above blocking the water flow. Everyone immediately tried to break through the ceiling, but what no one noticed was that Blonde was experiencing another hallucination. However, everyone was now captivated by this stunning discovery. As the ceiling gave way, a massive stash of drugs was revealed before their eyes. Marcus analyzed that the drugs were worth at least $30 million. But he felt the group's analysis was off. This couldn't possibly be the killer's motive since they'd had no knowledge of it. Taking such action would only make everyone more desperate to find answers. During their discussion, someone finally noticed that Blonde had disappeared. Jay anxiously stood up, wanting to go search for her, but Marcus immediately stopped her, saying solo missions were too dangerous and that Blonde might actually be safer on her own. But panicked Jay had already lost all reason and stormed off after hurling some angry words. "We're staying here. No, these liars can't leave." He hadn't expected Glasses, who'd been at odds with Jay, to be so eager to help. With no other choice, everyone had to mobilize, splitting up to search and call out in the rain. At that moment, Blonde was being drawn by the dark figure from before, but when lightning illuminated the scene, she realized this person was actually the killer. Fortunately, just as he was about to strike, Rita arrived with her gun drawn. She told Blonde to go back and get the others while she stayed to prevent the killer's escape. Under her threat, the killer had no choice but to drop the knife, but in the next flash of lightning, he vanished. Rita nervously searched all around but was ultimately ambushed from behind. Soon she was struggling to breathe, desperately trying to remove the attacker's mask to see his face clearly, but she died without achieving her goal, remaining confused to the end. Just as the killer was about to take the gun, approaching shouts forced him to abandon it. After a night of chaos, the storm finally cleared. With more than half the group dead, the killer's range had narrowed once again. At this point, Jay and Glasses had no interest in finding the killer. They both wanted to get their hands on that gun to ensure their own safety. Marcus tried to intervene, arguing that infighting would only make the killer happier, but Anna suddenly told Marcus to drop the act. She then pulled a handful of bullets from her pocket. She'd secretly returned to the location Rita had mentioned and not only found the bullets but discovered another gun, along with a satellite phone nearby. However, the phone required a 5-digit unlock code. Marcus admitted the handgun was indeed his but claimed he'd never seen the satellite phone before. He then explained that he was a member of the FAA and had been secretly investigating this drug smuggling operation. After hearing this, everyone examined his wallet but found no identification whatsoever. Marcus immediately realized that the killer must have discovered this location too, stolen his credentials, and planted the satellite phone to frame him. But the series of lies had made everyone stop believing him. The volatile Jay simply struck him down with the gun butt. Glasses tried to intervene, but the more pressing issue was that Rita's death had left them without food supplies again. They needed to find a way to hunt and gather resources. Blonde volunteered, saying she'd done plenty of wilderness shooting with her family when she was younger. Meanwhile, the bound Marcus continued trying to convince Anna, the most rational among them, pointing out that Jay had a criminal record and now held a gun, while Glasses had been the first to run from the plane last night, giving her the most opportunity to commit the crime. But this time Anna remained unmoved. With no other option, Marcus played another card, revealing that Anna's boyfriend had died from a drug overdose and that she had a record of purchasing and dealing. This meant Anna was also part of his investigation. Learning she'd been deceived again made Anna trust him even less. Seeing that nothing would make her talk, Jay suggested they'd have to use violent interrogation. But Anna, still harboring doubts, said they hadn't checked the signal transmitter yet. Finally, they decided on a two-pronged approach. Whoever drew the short straw would stay behind for interrogation, while the others climbed the mountain to check the transmitter. Glasses unluckily drew the short straw and had no choice but to try using her fists. Marcus gritted his teeth and refused to break. What the group didn't know was that FAA members, having learned of the missing plane, were already in action. Two agents had tracked down the supervisor of the small aviation company, who turned out to be the pilot's girlfriend who'd answered the satellite phone earlier. They discovered that the pilot had previously been grounded for drug use, so why had he been cleared to fly again? Faced with their questions, her answers seemed reasonable, and the frustrated agents ultimately returned empty-handed. On the other side, Glasses, having achieved nothing as well, resorted to extreme measures, using scissors to rip off Marcus's toenail. But her actions were destined to be fruitless. Meanwhile, the other three had reached the mountaintop again, only to discover the transmitter had stopped working. Fortunately, the killer had only pulled out the cables. Anna quickly reconnected them, and this time the FAA received the signal quickly. However, due to the weak signal, they could only pinpoint the location within a 50-kilometer radius, still a vast area for a tropical jungle covered in dense trees. The Mexican military had already established outposts around the jungle perimeter for complete control. Since Marcus's mission was classified, they couldn't interfere too much. The commanding officer said they should wait patiently for rescue. But upon hearing this, his partner became extremely anxious. She and Marcus were married. She decided to take unauthorized action to rescue her husband, but it might already be too late. The jungle was once again embracing nightfall, and this time the killer's target was the isolated Marcus.